Hi, and welcome to another video recording. And today we're recording this from Fitzgerald Marine Reserve. That's about roughly about 45 to 50 minutes drive from where we are at Redwood City. So today's video, what I'd like to talk to you a little bit about is on why using design thinking when looking at designing a business that sets you free. Now, first and foremost, for those of you who are not familiar with design thinking basically it's an innovation process, if you like, that use a slightly different approach from most innovation process. So for example, in the past, when you think about innovation, a lot of time immediately people start thinking about coming up with different ideas, coming up with different solutions, right? So while that is good, sometimes if you fail to identify the right problem, you might end up wasting a lot of time and energy going into coming up with ideas, and at the end of the day you realize that it's not addressing the underlying problem. So instead of going straight into just looking at the solutions or ideas, design thinking take it one step back. So instead of saying that let's go into coming up with ideas, it says let's go and look at what's the underlying problem. So for those of you who are familiar with some of the tools that can be used to dig deeper into what is the underlying problem when you encounter a particular challenge, there is a tool that is called the 5 whys, which means when you come across a certain thing, a certain issue, you ask the question why 5 times, and at the end of the 5th time or thereabouts, you would be able to identify or zoom in on what is the underlying problem. So for example, if you find out that, for example, as an example, we could think of, say, your manufacturing process is not fast enough, or it's not meeting the deadline, and hence the goods are not shipping out to customers on time. So you can ask, why is it that the manufacturing process is not on time? So and then you come up with an answer. Well, it's not on time probably because we are not getting the raw materials in on time. And then you take one step back and you ask, why is it that we're not getting the raw material in on time? So then that might lead to a possible answer like, perhaps we didn't inform our suppliers that they have to give us the supplies by a certain date at a certain time. All right, and you keep asking that, and at the end of the 4th or 5th whys, that is where you will be able to uncover what is the underlying problem. So design thinking, it's pretty much the same. It's just saying that instead of jumping straight into the solution, first let's take a step back and ask ourselves, what is the underlying problem? What is the real problem? So someone once said that, well, design thinking is more of before problem solving, it's a problem defining. So without accurately defining the problem, all right, you may end up downstream incurring a lot of wasted time and resources and energy looking for solutions that at the end of the day might not work, or might not be worthwhile, or might not be long-lasting, might not create long-lasting change. So instead of focusing on ideas generation, you go into problem defining. But there's just one more point I would like to point out when we look at design thinking. One of the key elements in design thinking is this process called empathy. Now, empathy basically is just saying that instead of looking at it from the owners or the company's perspective, you look at it from the end user perspective. So an example that many people gave was that in the past, when you talk about a comparison between Windows and a Mac or an Apple OS, for example, people will say that the Windows OS is more geared towards, you know, what the engineers who wrote the codes or the engineers who wrote the software, what they felt it should be. Whereas Apple, on the other hand, it's a little bit more user-centric. It's more user-friendly, and as a result of it, it says that, you know, what would the user do or what would the user need, and then it designs from there. So now that you know, since the iPhone this year 2017, since the iPhone was launched about 10 years ago, a lot of companies have caught on the idea that, you know, you start off by looking at the end user. So you look at the end user and ask, you know, from the end user perspective, how would this look like? So an example that I can give you in my work with schools was that a lot of time teachers always find that you know, students are not reading enough. So from an educator perspective, many of them would come up with programs. Programs like, you know, you start off with a reading program or you start off with some other program with the aim to try to encourage students to want to read more. Well, that's well and good, but the problem is that without identifying the real motivation behind why children want to read, you know, your solutions may not be very effective. So I had one school, what they did was that instead of just coming up with reading programs or, you know, set up opportunities for students to borrow more books, what they did was that they looked at what is already motivating students to want to read. So the thing that I always tell the teachers whenever they tell me that this is a problem in their school is that, you know, I would always challenge them by saying that, well, I dare say that the children are reading, it's just they are not reading the kind of materials that you want them to read. So many of them would laugh and, you know, they will get my point. And so a lot of time we might not be able to, we might see the issue or the problem from our perspective rather than from the perspective of the people that we're working with. Now, how is that useful when it applies to business? That's what we want to talk about in the next video. So in the next video, I'll share with you a little bit more why I've decided that, you know, from my work with schools as well as talking to other entrepreneurs, why design thinking is probably one of the best solution or the best approach to take when you're looking at designing a business that sets you free. So before I go, the question is, does the money stop the moment you stop working? My name is Melvyn, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.